welcome to AZ in the Circle Arizona Softball Podcast. We got a spectacular show for you today. We got a special guest star, the head coach of Arizona State University softball team, Coach Megan Bartlett. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Javier. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. We're so excited to be here. The other special guest star we have here is Club Farrington, the club.
Here she is.
She's got her own reputation. She's just served 800,000 fans. Saw that post on social media since its inception. So we're closing in on 1 million here in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. We got 4 topics we want to cover today. Pretty simple ones. Hey, where the team is now, moments that stick out from the current season, and then also her arrival into Tempe. She was thrown in here into the fire pretty quickly. And then we'll take a break from our sponsor. Then we'll come back and talk about, we'll go back to the future and talk about these magnificent 7 that are coming to Tempe in the fall of 2024. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with, hey, a lot of our student athletes talk about their recruitment journey. Well, we love to hear about your recruitment journey with the Fighting Irish out there in South Bend, Indiana.
A minute ago.
Yeah, just a little bit ago. So we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Coach, where the team is now, your current studs that are balling out, your staff getting it done behind the scenes, a little bit about that.
Yeah. So certainly Deborah Jones has what's come to be kind of the consistency and the rock on the mound. Very proud of her. She's in her 5th year. I've known DJ since she was 15, right? Coached her freshman year at Ball State, and fast forward many years later, she came to join us in Tempe.
She had that spectacular game against Stanford that came.
She did. She threw beautifully. So certainly super proud of her. Kelsey Hall continues to just come up in big moments, hit the ball hard, had a couple home runs last night against GCU. Lily Denby, my goodness, she's a wizard at shortstop. She does some stuff that I'm like, man, I don't know the last time I saw a chick be able to range that far.
Turn, twist, flip.
Right? Far up the middle, like her transition time to just get rid of the ball is so fast, so accurate. Does a beautiful job with the backhand. And this is certainly, we're in the desert. It's not always an easy surface to play, right? It gets hard in places and can kind of, the ball can take off on you. And she's just been brilliant for us. So, yeah, I think, a little banged up, and it's been a tough season like that. But certainly, I think a lot of bright spots.
Yeah, you definitely got to get lucky to make a deep run. What about the staff getting it done? I know you assembled your dream staff, Coach Manley, Coach K, the young gun, Coach Decker. Have there been any moments during the season where you're like, man, I'm so glad I hired that guy, where they made an adjustment in game or in film?
3 of them every day. Okay. So yeah, I think, I'm so blessed. And the 3 of them immediately, certainly it's a shared vision. I think how our values line up, not only as coaches, but certainly as people, right? That it's our players are people first, and they're our family, and we love them. And why I put that staff together, why I chose the 3 of them is it's really 3 people who are relationship builders, culture builders. We're glue people, which I think can get really super interesting sometimes. Certainly there's a ton of trust and authenticity there, but at the end of the day, like, this is about these kids, right? And helping them through these really transformative, transitional years in their life, especially now, right? Yep. I think in the last 5 to 10 years, anybody who does this for a living will tell you the challenges of this generation are so different, right? They're probably not quite as mature as they were 10, 15 years ago. Social media certainly in that, right? Those kids are subject to just so much scrutiny, and they live life under a microscope a little bit differently. So certainly wonderful things about every generation, right? That they have a very strong sense of self, and I think tolerance is rampant in this generation, right?
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah,
very
they have good hearts, and they're so lovely. But certainly the challenges to coach them are much different. And if we're not paying attention to that from a professional coaching point of view, certainly what worked 10, 15 years ago and how you spoke to people, that wouldn't fly anymore with this generation, right? Sure. So you have to evolve as the kids evolve, and that was a big part of the reason I put this staff together. So yes, technically excellent. Coach K is one of the best recruiters in the entire country. He's a great hitting coach. Coach Jeremy is so gifted with his pitchers, right? He has won world championships, and he's thrown for both the New Zealand national team and then Team USA here. So I just think, a wealth of experience and a ton of game IQ to pull from. He can coach. The subculture of our pitching staff and our pitching unit is so tight. They work together so well as a unit, which is such a product of who he is as a human. And then, of course, Coach Haley, our young little firecracker, she's special. Like, she was absolutely meant to be a professional coach, right? And she laughs because she says she has no choice, because that's Daddy Steve, yep. Right? Played for the Giants and played for the Marlins, and that's how he raised her. I remember the second time I met Haley, we were, I don't know, just having a random conversation, and she's like, I'm amazed with this generation. Like, they look at film. You can't break down your own film? I've been breaking down my own film since I was 8, yep. You know? And I don't think that was an exaggeration. I really think she has been. So Haley is charismatic, and she's just has this effervescent personality that people gravitate toward. But her ability to systematically break down, teach, troubleshoot the game is like something I haven't seen in a long time out of a coach that young. You
put it all together, you got everything going in the right direction.
I think so.
I also like the fact that your big vision, when you guys sat down as a staff, I mean, Coach K coached the U15 USA team to a gold medal in Japan, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And now he's on the USA.
He's going with the big girls, yeah. He's rolling with Team USA to Italy this summer, and he'll get to coach Janae Jefferson, right, from Texas, who's near and dear to my heart. So, yeah, I'm so excited for Jimmy. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and sometimes we are so locked into the day-to-day of what we're doing. I think to just take a breath and be able to coach some elite athletes, right? Gosh, and he loves it, right? Like, that's, like, I have 2 young kids and just running this crazy circus. So when I have a week off or 2 weeks off, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to find a beach. No one talk to me. Yeah. Jimmy wants to go to a ball field.
Yeah. But then he has a pulse on American talent in softball, totally from U15 to the current Team USA. Yeah, he knows.
He does. And Jimmy's incredible at what he does. He's just, he's rock solid. He's loyal. He's one of the most hardworking coaches in the game. And it just makes me happy. Like, I feel grateful every day he's here. Yep. And we're, on the build and the grind and the journey together.
Great.
And then feel like our national team is certainly in good hands.
Yep.
Super proud of him.
Yep. Well, thanks, Coach. I want to go back to second question is your arrival into Tempe. Now, we know it's a whirlwind. You came in, hired in July. The team had just a couple outs away from going to the World Series and made it to the Super Regional. And you showed up, and there were 8 players here. You were fighting to keep a couple team leaders. You want to build a culture. You never made any excuses. You dove right in. And then I think to myself, hey, what puts a coach, what prepares a coach for that kind of adversity to go off right off the bat? Most great teams, the team you came from, for example, if they were bringing in a new head coach, you got 22 players, chances are you're going to have 22 players the following year. So the coach is just slowly put their process together, put their program in place, bring in the recruits. But in your case, you had to start from almost square one. And so my question myself was like, how was she prepared for this? I want to go through your background quickly. Okay. And in this Northern Illinois, where I saw it happen, you were at Texas. You and Coach Singleton helped lead Texas to number 1 in the nation with doubles. Yeah, you upset Oklahoma on Easter weekend 2022, their first, that was Saturday before Easter Sunday, against a great crowd there, and Haley was on the mound, and you guys pulled it
electric. Off. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she threw a couple games that year that I'm like, man, this is just, you're just watching greatness. That was one of them, and then the regional final she threw at Washington was absolutely spectacular.
And then you get to the finals again.
Game 2 at Arkansas, I'm like, that was one of the most gutsy performances I think I've seen in 17 years. She was amazing. Like, that kid is just all heart, all guts, all grit. Her parents owned a dairy for a long time, way Northern California, almost to Oregon, I guess. So she was just one of those country strong kids.
Oh, that's great.
Nothing really fazed her, and she led well. And
she was a warrior. I could tell on the mound.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so 2 years there at Texas. Before that, you were at Ball State. and 5 seasons there. The first 2 seasons, you were building your program just under 500, and then the next 3 seasons, 3 consecutive seasons of 30-plus wins.
Yeah.
So that there, the proof is in the pudding, right? You took a program and you made it 3. Then the COVID, you probably would have made the tournament that year, but the 3 seasons leading up to before COVID, you had 30-plus win seasons. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then before that, you were at Purdue. You finished 3rd in the Big Ten. I think that's their best finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then before that, you were back in the Big East with DePaul as a coach, and you won regular season championship with the Big East and the tournament champs. And then this is where I think it happened, When you were at Northern Illinois, you were there for 5 seasons. It says you were in charge of the infielders and outfielders, so it's pretty much the defense except the catchers, right? But then also it says you were the offensive coordinator. Oh, and by the way, we'll make you the recruiting coordinator and camp coordinator, right? And on top of that, you already had your master's from the previous coaching stint. So what did you do there? Oh, you know what? I'm going to get my law degree. So you were going to law school while you were coaching just about everything for Northern Illinois. So there was this thing called no sleep for you, I imagine.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So I think that in itself kind of prepared you well for you being thrown into the fire here at Tempe. And then you got opportunity before you went to Northern Illinois to be mentored by the great Yvette Healy, who's now the head coach of Wisconsin. And I've seen her up close in person, and her intensity and enthusiasm is amazing. I saw her at a camp, and she was putting on a game for the campers, but she was the one pitching. She's pitching, they're playing, she's calling out cuts, she's just fired up. You think she's like still playing. She has energy, probably like your young coach here, Coach Decker.
She does.
And then at the same time while you were doing that, playing that coaching with Loyola with Coach Healy, you were playing professionally with the Chicago Bandits. So you've always had this thing where you were multitasking and you were doing different stuff and taking on a lot on your plate. And by the way, you played center field for Chicago Bandits, while the person in the circle is the All-American, All-World Jenny Finch.
She was incredible.
From that team down in Tucson.
Yeah.
So I think, going back to what I was trying to set up, my question was, because you've had all this preparation, all this training, you I think, were more than ready to handle the situation you got put into. I'm sure you didn't want to be in that situation, but now that you're in that situation, where do you sense the team is now based off when you first got here and where you see them going, and what's your vision for the end of this year, year 3?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I knew we had to address was going to be, it was the clubhouse, it was the culture. And that I actually think I really thought that was going to be closer to a three-year process. But really it took us a year. Like we're injured and we're certainly banged up right now, but this group of kids we put together, I'm like, they are not only good ball players, they are good humans, they are good athletes, they're good sisters, they make good grades. These girls represent the program the right way. And I'm hopeful that we get to be their mentors and their role models, not just while they're here, but we're the old people, right, dancing in the middle of the dance floor at their wedding. Like Deanna was certainly that person for me, right? I ended up marrying my college sweetheart, and I don't know, we were 30, 31 when we got married, and Deanna was in the middle of the dance floor, who I played for at Notre Dame. So that piece I'm honestly really, really proud of. I think we've got people that they're bought in, they're locked in. But certainly that was why I was brought here, right? It was vision, it was culture. As the program continues to just heal and we continue to influx more talent into it, the foundation is going to be set. Like what they're coming into, we won't be building the plane while we're flying it, right? Like who we are, what we're about, what our identity is, these being women of high character, right?
To empower others, I've heard you say. You want them to empower others.
If you're not a
be
woman,
a Sun Devil.
yes, if you're not a woman that can literally look another woman in the eye and say, that wasn't perfect, doesn't matter. Like, you're amazing, go get it. I've got you, I've got your back. I love you, I see you. You can't do those things, you can't be a Sun Devil. And that certainly takes, I think, a lot of emotional maturity, and that takes women with a strong sense of self. And that's really, really important to us in the recruiting process, too.
I've also seen you really work hard at fostering the alumni relationships, and really even your graduate seniors and seniors I heard they're helping you with your social media. So, but what that says to me is they're buying into, I want the Sun Devils to be great down the road.
Yes.
So, and with the alumni you've brought in, and you're really, there's this sisterhood that you're building, that you're part of, that you're also, I know that's not your main job, but you're doing, it seems to me, you're bringing lots of these great traditional winners, and your current team fighting hard, and the future Sun Devils, you're bringing them all together, and that's not an easy thing to do. But I see that's been like one of your duties on the side, and that you're doing great at.
Thank you. I mean, that's important. I got to spend some time with Coach Wells and Coach Myers, actually in the past few months, and I just think, gosh, them and what they built this program into, and how proud the people are that played for them. That's a big piece of the puzzle, right? Especially with how transient college athletics have become, right? Transfer portal, and the reality is rosters aren't, probably from here on out, it doesn't matter what school you coach at and what sport you coach at, the rosters aren't going to be as stable as they were 5-10 years ago, right? So to constantly having to just capture and try to get people that are not just the coaching staff, right? The people who are so proud of the program and love the program, and it impacted their life in such a meaningful way, to continually feed the message, right? Try to get people to feel that sense of pride and ownership while they're immediately wearing the jersey, because it might be for 1 year and it might be for 4 or 5 years. Like you really just don't know anymore sometimes how long you're going to have them. So that piece is important to me.
Yep. And I've heard Coach K talk a lot about, hey, one of the biggest things in softball is building those relationships. So that's great that same theme permeates through your whole entire staff.
Yeah.
So, well, great. Thank you for answering those first 2 questions. And now we're going to hear from our sponsor, Pure Green Tempe, down here on Mill Avenue, Tempe Juice Bar. Pure Green Juice Bar in Tempe, Arizona. It's located off of Mill and 3rd Street, just behind Daily Jam. They are big supporters of ASU softball, so much so that they're offering 10% off any smoothie if you go get juiced up before the game. So pre-game at Pure Green Tempe, 10% off any smoothie in the house. And then when the Sun Devils win, for the next 24 hours, you get 15% off anything on the entire menu. So go Devils. And remember, whether that's a home game or an away game, anytime they win, you get 15% off the entire menu. They got great acai bowls. In the morning, they got great avocado toast, great different things. So, hey, Pure Green Tempe. And we're back. Thank you, Pure Green Tempe Juice Bar. Now, let's go back to the future and talk about the studs that you have signed. So many of them are on the PGF All-American watch list as seniors. And they're 7 studs, right? Might call them the Magnificent 7. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out. But I wanted to talk about, we'll start with out of Georgetown, Texas, right-hand pitcher, Cambry Krieger. Tell us about her.
Oh, my goodness. So that is the pitcher for the Texas Bombers, right, for Scott Smith's team. And I'm so excited about Cambry. So she really, I feel like, is kind of the not only incredibly talented, wonderful drop ball, learned a little bit of a rise ball, just incredibly consistent, right? Like her control is so good. The wonderful Kat Osterman is her pitching coach, so that certainly doesn't hurt anything. But Cambry's personality, like she steps on the mound and she just competes, like doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. She can, systematically kind of pick apart hitters. But then you put it in the dugout and she steps off the field and she's goofy and she's lovely and she's funny.
I heard you said her laugh is contagious. You got a good laugh?
Her laugh is hilarious.
Okay, good.
Yeah, like her mom was a game warden for a living. That's what DeShanna did. So I'm like, yeah, tell me nothing else. I was in after that, right?
Okay, good. Good. And the next one, Takayla Davis, goes by TK from Germantown, Delaware. Yep. Went out east, right? She's supposedly a smooth infielder who can fly.
Yeah, she can pick it, big arm, does a beautiful job at shortstop. She can run, comes to us from the New Jersey Intensity, from Kevin O'Donnell's team. TK was so interesting because she was one of those late bloomer kids, right? Had kind of grown into her frame, had played on a regional team really until that summer when Coach Kev finally picked her up. And she was one of those kids that I feel like it was late, so a lot of people were out of money, but she was on everybody's radar. And we had just kind of continued to keep an eye. And then finally at Nationals, I was like, yeah, this kid can help us. Because to play right out here in the desert, you need elite defenders.
Yep.
Kids with slow feet and bad hands, that's not going to work. And she certainly doesn't have those things. So I'm like, yeah, she's going to be able to pick it.
That's great.
And run a defense. So we're pretty excited about
Yeah,
TK.
I've seen her on film, and she can fly around those bases. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that translates to, I haven't seen her defensively, that translates to moving left and right, too.
Yeah. She can certainly pick it.
And Tiare Ochin.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, she's from the Athletics Mercado Smith 18U.
Yeah.
Awesome team. Dave Mercado's team out of Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
She's extra elite, Hot 100, top 14. She's a gap-to-gap hitter, aggressive base runner, on the PGF All-American watch list this year as a senior. What else could you say about her?
Incredible kid, great athlete, amazing family. I think that was one of the first things about Tiare is we fell in love with the whole family when they came in for a visit. So she ended up being an exceptionally easy choice. Defensively, though, she's brilliant in base. She's got these instincts I haven't seen in a really long time. She knows exactly what the pitcher's doing. She can read bat plane. She's the kid that she's not just making a diving stop in the 3-4 hole. She's standing in the 3-4 hole, right? Throw somebody out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So first time I was like, okay, maybe they positioned her. She did it again. About ended a game actually on this. She had it. Like she had lined up in this kind of like super weird spot, but the hitter had been late. The ball, she had just like kind of blooped it in, probably like 2 feet over her head, right? But she was in line, and I'm like, okay, did that just happen? And then she about did it a third time. I think they were playing the Premier Tennessee Mojo team, and I'm like, oh. So now that
It's just part of her theme.
Yeah, she does. She's got these instincts and vision. Probably one of the closer defenders I've seen to really Janae Jefferson at second base in a really long time. And she certainly knows what her strengths are at the plate, right? It's to contact, it's gap to gap, works with beautiful direction. Of course, right? She's been trained by, a crowd of coaches that know what they're doing. But we're super excited, about Tiare.
Good. We're excited too.
Yeah.
Fans are.
Yes.
Club Farrington is.
Yes.
All right, we got Lily Holche. She's Lutz, Florida.
Yes.
Yep. She's a catcher, high IQ, lots of power. A little bit about her.
Yeah. So Lil she's basically a pro baller. So in the mom and dad had a little bit. Dad's in construction. So eventually she was like, you know what? I'm going to train. She lifts. I mean, and Lil's jack, right? She lifts, she runs. She's got a hitting coach. She works with Baseball Rebellion out of North Carolina. Of course, then she's got her club team with Pat Affrenti and the Texas Mustangs, or the Tampa Mustangs, sorry, Texas on the brain. And so Lil S, she's like, yeah, she makes straight A's. She goes to high school online. She plays for her high school team, but I don't have time to go to school. I need to be great at softball. And I'm like, okay. So
we'll take that.
A little pro baller already. But yeah, she's brilliant. She's got big time power at the plate. We were certainly thrilled when we plucked that one out of Florida. I think she's going to have a nice career.
Super.
Rock Forest behind the plate.
And then this other one, I think she's got a larger than life personality. Ashley Mejia out of Corona, California, the mecca of softball.
Yes.
I saw her great interview with her sister, Alyssa. You did a great job in her Locker Room podcast. So great. If you haven't had a chance to see her there. She's also in the Elite 100, number 29, and on the PGF 2024 Senior All-American watch list. If I just look up the roster, PGF All-American watch list, most of them just say ASU signee, ASU signee, ASU signee. So that's, and that was before you knew they were going to be on the watch list.
I like it that way.
Yeah. So Ashley Mejia, she was the first commit as a staff. Yeah, tell us about Ashley.
Oh, the wonderful Ashley Mejia. So immediately she was like an all-in Sun Devil, right? This is her place, and this was the dream. But she is incredibly just mature, and she's articulate. Whatever Ashley decides to do in life, once softball's eventually over, she will 1,000% be successful, right? Love her family. Parents are amazing. And certainly I think what's interesting with Ash is she does everything with this sense of gratitude, really, right? And she's incredibly well-rounded, dynamic left-handed hitter, great hand-eye. She's got great pop at the plate. She can run, and well trained, right, from Ken and Roseanne Briggs, right? She's a Bengal, and but I think I'm just as excited to coach Ashley for who she is as a human, right? And I think what her just perspective and her ability to be just such a, I think, fluent communicator.
You think she's the type that would empower other women easily?
I think she's going to lead pretty well. Yep. I don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, I think Ashley's going to be a nice leader in the program.
Super. Thanks, Coach. And then next we out of Queen Creek, Arizona, here locally, we're super excited about Corey Shell.
Yeah.
She can fly.
She can fly. My goodness. Yeah, she's going to be able to steal on anybody in the country. That's like, you know, she runs track in addition to playing softball at Queen Creek. And so anytime you can legitimately hold your own as a sprinter on the track side, you're going to be special. You're going to have special wheels. So, but really, Corey's a great little competitor, but she does so many things to make the program better. She can pick it in the middle infield. She can pitch a little bit, fly around the bases. So we're thrilled. Like, Corey was a great pickup. Family's super lovely. I think she's going to have her own cheering.
Yes. Corey's
right?
Corner, or
everybody that half the city of Queen Creek will be here on Friday and Saturday night, which we're certainly thrilled about. Yep. So we're incredibly happy.
Yep, we're excited about that too. And then lastly, out of your magnificent 7 here, Julianne Tipton from Mount Carmel, Tennessee, a right-hand pitcher. You said she's a power pitcher. She's passionate. She's expressive.
Incredibly high game IQ too. So I think that was the physical talents. You know, beautiful drop ball, can flick up a rise. You know, she's going to work upper 60s, but it was the conversations that I was like immediately listening to Coach Manley having with her, and I'm like, oh, so this kid understands exactly what she's trying to do, pulling up the field drop and right kind of timing and tempo and where her body should be. I mean, anymore with that kind of elite level body awareness, and then you've got the strength and talent behind it, you're going to have something special. Especially as we've monetized youth sports, and you have a lot of kids who didn't have the opportunity really to play soccer and volleyball and tennis, and that is, I think, something small town America, and she is from small town America, will provide you. So I think Julianne certainly has got some very translatable gifts physically, but who she is as a human, like, such a wonderful heart. Parents are just lovely, lovely people. So she was certainly, I think, a perfect match for the program, not just the physical talents, but who she is, right, and how she's wired. Really high level of drive.
Good. All those young ladies sound awesome, and they're very talented, obviously, and that's going to pay big dividends down the road for ASU softball and ASU fans to come out to the Club Farrington. All right, so we'll get to our last question of the day, our fourth question. We love to have you share your recruiting journey to play for the Fighting Irish in South Bend, Indiana. And we're both from there, Indianapolis, Indiana, and you're born in Terre Haute. Yep. Yeah. And but before that, so our fans know, you were a 2-time All-American, NFCA All-American your junior year and senior year. You were the captain of the Irish your senior year. You had 2 Big East tournament titles you won. You won 4 Big East regular season championships, and Notre Dame made it to the NCAA regional tournament appearances 4 times. On top of that, when you finish your career there, you end up, at the time, probably still true, you end up being the Fighting Irish's leader in hits and stolen bases. When I hear that, hits and stolen bases, it just falls in line with what we've known about you, or learned about you, is that you have this sense of urgency to get it done faster. It's not just good enough that you made it to first base. Hey, I got to get in scoring position for our people. Hey, it's not just good enough that culture plan in 3 years. No, we want a culture plan in 1 year. So it's permeated. I mean, the next best thing I always say to playing is coaching. So it looks like you've carried that passion and that intensity and that sense of urgency through your career, and that's great to see. But where it all started, hey, your recruiting journey. We ask all our guests, our student athletes, knowing now what you know about the recruiting process, what would you tell? Because you might have been of the age where they probably had you signed to first grade, 5th grade.
So I was actually even older than that, because I was recruited back in the day where people actually took 5 visits, right? Like you started speaking to colleges as a junior, and then you actually
before then. Okay.
Visits.
Oh, great.
I didn't. I was one of the first defenders. Maybe I was part of the problem.
Okay. So you, okay. So what would you tell that younger self, that coach? Say, hey, Coach young Bartlett, this is what you need to do, or this is what my advice to you was, or tell us about your journey and what you would say.
Yeah. People will be the most profound part of your collegiate experience, easily. The coaching staff you play for, the environment you're surrounded by, that is going to impact you for your whole life, right? The decades to come, the years to come. So be very hyper aware of really who you're choosing to let impact your life in such a profound way. Like, oh, I love the girls, but I didn't love the coach, or the coaches seemed great and I didn't get the right vibe. Though those conversations with your parents, like those are, listen to that. Like that's your gut, your instinct kind of talking to you. I got really incredibly lucky, really, when it boiled down to it. It was Notre Dame or Michigan. Deanna was incredible. The wonderful Liz Miller recruited me and retired right before my freshman year, and they hired Deanna, who was on staff as the pitching coach. There was continuity there. And then, of course, Carol Hutchins, Bonnie Thole are incredible too. So I certainly had no bad options in that. But the story wrote itself the way it should. My parents were I just think, did a great job of letting me navigate, but continuing to drive it back to what are our family's values and what's going to be a good fit for me as a person. And they certainly chose right. I remember this very vividly. And at the time, I thought it was ridiculous. And of course, now that I'm 40 and I have 2 little kids, it's hit me differently. But I remember my mom and again, it was a very tough decision because they were both wonderful programs, both top 10 programs at the time. My mom was like, I want you to go see a young mom grind. So if I get a vote, it's Notre Dame. And I was like, lady, what are you talking about? I don't even want kids. I'm like, keep it moving. I have things to do. Yeah. I'm going to be an attorney. And, I was the only 6th grader who told my 6th grade, like, oh, hey, what are you going to do when you grow up? And people are like, I'm going to be a vet. I'm going to be an astronaut. And I was like, I'm going to be an attorney and go to college on a softball scholarship.
And you did.
And I'm pretty certain that my sweet math teacher just about fell right out of their chair. I mean, but yeah, that was a big piece of it. I'm so grateful to Deanna. And it's certainly I played for her in her first 4 years as head coach. You will learn so much about who you are and how you get tested and your patience and your ability to communicate well and hold your vision even when things are tough. And she did all that, but I got to, she had Brady my freshman fall. So when my mom said, I want you to go and watch a young mom grind, that's important to me. It happens. Right?
You have young ones now.
Part of it. Yeah, I remember this crazy spring break trip we took to Hawaii. And of course, from Indiana to Hawaii, there was a couple layovers in there. And we were getting tight on a connection. So it was like, Steph grabbed the baby. Deanna's right. But I get it, Deanna. I couldn't run through the airport anymore either, right? Steph grabbed the baby. I had a pack and play. Liz had a stroller, and we sprinted to the next gate. And I was like, oh, God, if we leave her, can we get on a plane with just Brady without her? But it's just a funny example of, it was an all-in environment. I remember eating pregame meals, sitting in, and it was like Brady was sitting next to this person eating pancakes.
Do you talk to Coach Gumpf now and you say, hey, totally. I can't believe how you did it? And and most of our conversations now that I'm a full-blown adult, I still apologize. I'm like, I was such a brat, I was such a little know-it-all. And she's like, no, you're not. You're fine. You're 40. Stop apologizing. Okay, no, I still talk to her all the time. So she's incredible. But I certainly, whether that was, my parents really thought guiding that process or divine intervention, whatever it was, I will always love Notre Dame and be so grateful to her and to that place. And, Chris Gannett is still there on staff. Yep. But those were certainly my people. And I was in the right place at the right time. And they took this feisty little firecracker with, it was all competitiveness all the time and not a lot of tact. Yeah. Just direct.
Yeah, just.
Fastest point from A to B is a straight line.
This young woman that had a little bit more grace and a little bit more patience and certainly developed that capacity for other people and to lead, and here we are.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and we're excited for you to finish out the season strong. And I'm hoping that big things happen in the last Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah.
You know, you never know, what's going to happen there. So that's coming
crazy.
up on them. Yep.
Yeah.
So thank you, Coach Bartlett, for being on the show. Thank you out there listening to us. This is Javier with AZ in the Circle, Arizona Softball Podcast. If you liked what you saw, which I'm sure you did, please subscribe, like us below. We got the same handle on Twitter or X and Instagram at AZ in the Circle. Thank you very much.